Hello, friends. Something truly unexpected has just taken place. An event that has stirred emotions far beyond the front lines. In the war-torn region of Kupiansk, a city divided by the river and the relentless tension of ongoing battles, a visit occurred that no one had foreseen. Cameras captured the moment when the president of Ukraine appeared, unannounced, in the very area that has been under constant discussion for months. His presence there, among soldiers, in the place where every meter is fought for, instantly drew attention and sparked countless questions. Why now? Why there? What message was he trying to send, not only to his troops, but to the entire world? Kupiansk, as many know, is split by the river, its larger right bank part and its smaller left bank district. Control over these areas has shifted multiple times throughout the conflict. Reports from both sides differ drastically, each claiming progress, each declaring the other's defeat. But this visit changed the atmosphere entirely. It wasn't just a symbolic move, it was a statement. Standing among soldiers, the president spoke words that were brief yet filled with determination. Today, the Kupiansk direction. Our warriors are achieving results for Ukraine. I greeted them and thanked every unit. His tone was steady, confident. But behind these words lies a story far more complex than it may seem. On the other side, Russian officials quickly responded, asserting control not only over the right bank, but also over the left, insisting that the city and its surroundings are fully under Russian control. Yet, southward along the same river, lies another settlement, Kupiansk-Uzlovi, a place now in focus where movement and advances continue. The Russian side claims that within days, this area too will be under their full control. In a few days we will take it, one official said firmly. The contrast between statements could not be sharper. Who is telling the truth? And what is really happening on the ground? At the same time, Ukrainian soldiers posted videos online showing their positions, their movements, and their morale, unbroken, defiant, despite the risks. This sudden visit brought a wave of renewed energy, but also confusion. Analysts immediately started asking, was this a show of strength or a sign of urgency? Does it mark a shift in the frontline situation or a message to international partners that Ukraine remains steadfast and resilient? While these questions echo across social media, one thing is clear. The symbolic meaning of this moment extends far beyond the front lines. In an era when information itself is a weapon, every visit, every statement, every image carries weight. But what's truly happening behind these public moments? In a few minutes, we'll look closer, because this story is not only about a visit or a frontline city. It's about the people caught between two worlds, two realities, and the truth hidden in plain sight. Stay tuned, friends. The real story is just beginning. Don't forget to subscribe and follow, because the next part reveals what's been left behind the camera lens, what few dare to talk about openly, and why this visit might have changed more than anyone expected. Part 2. The deeper we look into what happened in Kupiansk, the more layers appear beneath the surface. That sudden visit by President Volodymyr Zelensky was not just another stop on his frontline tour. It was a calculated move, timed precisely to challenge the growing uncertainty in both Ukrainian and international audiences. When he stood among soldiers, wearing his now symbolic military jacket, it wasn't only to offer gratitude. It was to send a message that Ukraine remains present even in the most dangerous zones, even where the situation is tense and unpredictable. His words, "I thanked every warrior," sounded simple, but they carried a sense of defiance, a refusal to let the narrative slip away from Kyiv's control. Kupiansk, once a quiet industrial city in the Kharkiv region, has become a symbol of endurance. It was liberated in 2022, retaken by Russian forces in certain areas, and now exists in a state of constant tug-of-war. Satellite images show craters marking every field, burned-out buildings scattered through its neighborhoods. The bridge that once connected the two sides of the city lies damaged but not destroyed, standing as a painful reminder of how fragile the line between peace and chaos truly is. Local residents, who once hoped for stability, now speak in whispers, many hiding in basements or abandoned schools. Some say they hear Ukrainian drones at night, Others claim Russian artillery never stops. The truth is fragmented, like the city itself. At the same time, Russian state media released their own reports. They claim that both the right bank and left bank parts of Kupiansk are under full control, and that their forces are advancing toward Kupiansk-Uzlovi, a nearby railway junction crucial for logistics. Russian channels presented maps with red arrows moving steadily forward, while Ukrainian officials released videos of their soldiers standing in trenches, waving flags, and saying, "We're still here." The contradiction is not new, but in this case, it feels different, because both sides know how symbolic this area has become. Whoever controls Kupiansk controls not just a town, but a strategic crossing between regions. Shortly after Zelensky's visit, Ukrainian outlets published footage showing him greeting troops in camouflage, shaking hands with commanders, and speaking quietly to injured soldiers. His visit was accompanied by a short statement: "Kupiansk direction, our warriors achieve results. I am proud of every one of them." The tone was controlled, but the silence in his eyes told a different story, one of exhaustion, pressure, and the burden of leadership. He knows that each visit like this is risky. A missile strike could change everything in a moment. But still, he goes. That's the kind of message he sends to his soldiers, to his allies, to Moscow. Meanwhile, a contrasting voice appeared on social media, that of Mikhail, a Russian ex-fighter who returned home from the front wounded and disillusioned. His story spread quickly because it revealed another side of the conflict, one that the official channels rarely show. "Everything they show on TV is not true," he said quietly, his face hidden by a hood. "I fought for Donbass. I believed what they told us. But what I saw there, it's different. People die and no one cares. What's shown on TV, it's all lies." His confession resonated with thousands, not because it was shocking, but because it confirmed what many suspected, that the stories from the front are being rewritten before they reach the audience. Mikhail, once promised honor and stability, now lives on the edge of poverty. He moves slowly, limping, his wound untreated. Local volunteers found him sleeping near a garbage container in Tolyatti. They tried to help, contacting hospitals, charities, and veterans services, but he says no one truly listens. When you go to fight, they give you papers, tickets, everything. When you come back, nothing. "You are alone." His words cut through the official speeches and medals. They reveal the silent aftermath of war, one that neither side can easily admit. During the same week, in Ashgabat, President Vladimir Putin appeared on stage during a speech when suddenly his microphone failed. The moment lasted only seconds, but the symbolism was striking. A brief silence in which the leader's voice was literally cut off. The state TV quickly restored the sound, but clips of the event spread across social networks with captions like "A sign from above" and "The sound of reality." At that exact time, Moscow was paralyzed by record traffic jams. 10-point congestion scores flooded navigation apps, and Muscovites joked online that everything stands still. The phrase gained a deeper meaning, not just about cars, but about an entire country that feels frozen, waiting for something to change. In Russian cities, humor and frustration now coexist. Memes about the decaying West are replaced by videos showing Western public transport systems working flawlessly, even without drivers. A viral clip from Germany showed a driverless minibus gliding quietly through the streets. The caption read, "This is the West they said was dying." It contrasted sharply with footage from Russian towns showing broken buses and crumbling roads. People laughed, but the laughter was tired. It was the laughter of a nation realizing that propaganda can't fill potholes or heal wounds. And amid this growing fatigue, one video stood out. A man from Tolyatti recording himself, speaking to the camera about his endless attempts to receive compensation for his injury. "When they send you to war, everything is easy," he said. "They collect your papers, sign everything quickly, put you on a bus. But when you come back, it's all problems. Every office says go to another region, another department. Everyone passes you on. I fought for Russia, not for regions, but no one wants to take responsibility. His voice trembled, not with anger, but with despair. Maybe someone in the comments can tell me what to do, he said, looking directly into the lens. His message was raw, unpolished, but painfully real. The contrast could not be clearer. On one side, official reports of triumph and unity. On the other, stories of silence, confusion, and disillusionment. Between them, the truth drifts somewhere unseen, caught in the fog of narratives and expectations. Yet, despite everything, ordinary people, soldiers, families, medics, volunteers, continue to live through these contradictions every day. For them, there's no grand speech, no scripted scene, only survival and the faint hope that one day the truth will no longer need translation. In the next part, we will look deeper into what's behind this new phase of the war, not just on the battlefield, but in the minds of those who once believed everything they were told. Don't miss it, because what follows may change the way you see this entire story. When the dust settles around stories like Kupiansk, the most revealing details are often those that go unnoticed. The cameras leave, the headlines fade, and what remains is the quiet reality of people who continue to live in a place that no longer resembles home. Kupiansk today is not just a frontline city. It's a reflection of the wider war, a war of narratives, exhaustion, and endurance. Roads are filled with military trucks and humanitarian convoys. Power lines hang broken, and fields that once fed thousands are now mined and barren. Yet in small corners, life goes on. Children walk to improvised schools in basements. Grandmothers bake bread on makeshift stoves. The sound of distant artillery has become part of daily rhythm. It's not peace, but it's existence, fragile and persistent. After President Zelensky's visit, Western analysts immediately began dissecting his motives. Some saw it as a sign of resilience, a calculated reminder to allies that Ukraine still stands firm despite limited resources. Others interpreted it as a warning, a signal that the situation near Kupiansk could escalate again. The United States and European Union quietly reaffirmed their support, with officials in Washington and Brussels saying that Ukraine's defense remains a matter of international stability. At the same time, reports surfaced that Kiev is urging its partners for faster deliveries of ammunition and air defense systems. Every statement, every visit, every handshake now carries geopolitical weight. The war has evolved into a complex balance between endurance at home and persuasion abroad. Meanwhile, in Russia, state television continued broadcasting confident reports of victories. Maps filled television screens with arrows pointing westward. Announcers spoke in calm tones about planned advances, liberated territories, and stabilized sectors. But outside the studios, the mood was shifting. In cities like Samara, Nizhny Novgorod, and Saratov, families of mobilized soldiers gathered quietly, demanding updates about their loved ones. Social networks filled with messages from mothers searching for answers. Some had been waiting for months. "We just want to know where he is," one woman said outside a military office. "They tell us he's fine, but they don't say where." These small gatherings rarely make the news, but they reflect a deeper exhaustion, a fatigue that can't be censored. The story of Mikhail, the wounded soldier from Tolyatti, became a symbol of this disillusionment. When his video spread across the internet, people recognized in him something familiar, a reflection of thousands who returned from the front with promises unfulfilled. In his trembling voice was not rebellion, but quiet disappointment. "I fought for Russia," he said. "But when I came back, it was like I disappeared." His struggle to receive medical care, to find housing, to simply be acknowledged, resonated across regions. Comment sections filled with similar stories. Men describing paperwork lost between ministries, hospitals refusing treatment, and endless waiting lists for prosthetics. For many, these are not isolated cases, but a pattern. One that reveals how deeply the system struggles to handle the consequences of its own war. Even in Moscow, where official optimism remains strongest, subtle changes are visible. Conversations in cafes and metro stations carry hints of unease. People no longer talk about victory, but about when it will all end. Some whisper about sons or brothers who haven't returned calls in weeks. Others avoid the topic altogether, focusing on daily survival, prices, jobs, shortages. The illusion of normalcy persists, but beneath it lies quiet anxiety. A recent survey conducted by an independent research group found that more than half of respondents felt mentally exhausted by the constant news cycle. It's not open dissent, but it's a growing distance, a space where belief slowly fades. At the same time, international attention is gradually shifting. New global crises, elections, and regional tensions compete for headlines. Yet Ukraine remains a central issue, precisely because of how unpredictable it has become. Analysts from London, Berlin, and Washington emphasize that the conflict has entered a phase where the front lines move slowly, but the psychological battle intensifies. Every visit, every rumor, every drone strike becomes a symbol. The visit to Kupiansk fits perfectly into this pattern, a reminder that the war is not frozen, even when it seems so. Behind the scenes, both sides are regrouping, recalculating, waiting for opportunities that could reshape the entire map once again. In parallel, stories from ordinary people continue to pierce through official silence. Volunteers crossing checkpoints to deliver aid describe scenes that rarely reach television. Burned villages, abandoned pets, hospitals running on generators, and doctors working without rest. In Kharkiv region, local journalists record testimonies of residents who survived months in occupied areas. "They told us to forget who we are," one woman said, "but we didn't." Her small statement carries the entire weight of the conflict, the human determination to exist despite everything. This quiet courage doesn't make for loud headlines, but it defines the true spirit of those still living close to the front. As for Mikhail, recent footage showed him receiving some assistance after volunteers intervened. He was finally taken to a hospital for treatment, though he still speaks of uncertainty about the future. "I don't know what's next," he says. "I just want to live normally again." His words echo through a country where many feel the same. His story isn't unique. It's multiplied by thousands, across towns, across borders, across silence. And then there are the symbols, moments that capture the contradiction of this war. Putin's microphone cutting off mid-speech in Ashgabat became one of them. A technical glitch, nothing more, yet it sparked endless discussion. Some called it irony, others coincidence, but for many it felt like an image of the times. A powerful voice interrupted by static, a moment when control briefly slips. In Moscow, the city still buzzes. Traffic stands, people rush to work, but something invisible has shifted. The sound of certainty has faded. As this chapter of the war unfolds, one truth remains. Information has become as powerful as any weapon. Words, images, and stories shape perception more than missiles ever could. The visit to Kupiansk, the testimonies of soldiers like Mikhail, the silent fatigue of cities far from the front, together, they form the real battlefield of today. It's a war of meaning, fought not only in trenches, but in minds and memories. For viewers, understanding this means seeing beyond the headlines, recognizing the humanity behind every statement, the exhaustion behind every smile, and the hope that still survives in the quiet corners of ruined towns. This war is not over, and perhaps it won't end with a clear victory or defeat. It may end in fatigue, in understanding, or in something yet unseen. So stay aware, stay questioning, and never stop listening, because sometimes the most important truths are spoken softly, between the lines, when the microphones fall silent.